This is Hannibal here from the Hannibal TV on YouTube, and this is a UFO related podcast with a experiencer and blogger in the UFO domain, Nancy Thames, coming to us from Mississippi, where it's warm today, just like it has been recently in Wichita. So we're both counting our blessings for that.
Absolutely.
So, did you used to work for the Department of Defense?
I did. I really did. And it was amazing. I enjoyed it. I learned a whole lot. And it's really strange. They did not know, I didn't offer any information. And as far as I know, they didn't know about me. And to be honest with you, I feel like that was something that the non human intelligence wanted me to do and have that experience because through my eyes, it gave them ability to kind of see what it's like. And what I did was I worked with soldiers in dentistry, getting them ready to deploy overseas for battle. So, I got to see a lot of young people, male and female, very young, getting ready and prepared to go off. So, it was I was kind of like one of the last people they saw before they got on a plane or took off somewhere. So, I was proud to be a service and part of that.
So, as far as doing that, just out of curiosity, in dentistry, so that's just making sure everything in their mouth is healthy before they're
Deployed.
deployed. Yeah.
Yeah, because it will be 24 months before they could ever get treatment. So they can't go over there with, what they consider a class 3, which is like a broken down tooth that's abscessed, either needs extracting or a root canal, crown, et cetera, et cetera. So we had to get all that kind of things done so that they could be in the battlefield without a problem.
Where were you based when you were doing that?
Schofield Barracks in Hawaii. It was the worst place. I'm just kidding. It was in Oahu and I loved it. It was amazing. So I was there for about 5 years. And then I went to Fort Benning, Georgia, and was there another about 4.5 years, something like that. So it was amazing. I enjoyed it. And then so after that, that's when I headed back to here to Mississippi because that's where my grown sons, where they are, and I'm close to them now.
I was just in Oahu back in October, and
Mm,
very friendly people there. So, this picture at the
yeah.
Carter Observatory, when would that have been?
Whoa, that was, I lived in Australia for about 5 years. And what I did was I would kind of extend my visa. I would kind of played with the system. I would go on a visitor's, stay, and then I would leave and go stay over in New Zealand for a little while, and that's where that picture was taken. And I explored all of the Pacific, Vanuatu, Fiji, but especially Australia and New Zealand. And that picture is one of the observatories in New Zealand. And that's where I really it was so beautiful seeing the sky. They had no light pollution like we did here in the United States. So stargazing parties were a very big thing there. So I was very involved, and that really got me uh, really just appreciating the fact that being out somewhere where you could actually see the Milky Way, and it felt like it was so close that you could just touch it. So, it's hard to find places like that in the United States.
So, did your experiences begin before your military experience?
Absolutely. From my first conscious memories are around 2 or 3 years old. And it has been just reoccurring all my life. And it's a part of who I am. And it took me a long time to understand the importance of it, the meaning of it, all these different things, and I struggled just like anyone else. I had my fearful points. I had questionable of whether I was sane or not, all these things that go through your mind, which is normal. Anybody would have this. This is not things that happen to you on an everyday occurrence. And the things that they were teaching me and I was being exposed to, I knew that it was more than our physics or more than what we know in our reality. They were changing my frequency at a very young age, vibrating my body to a higher frequency, which would match their frequency. And when I would get to a certain vibrational frequency, they would take me by the hand and literally carry me through a ceiling or a door or a window, just whatever. So that was it was fun when I was little. It was just fun. I consider myself getting to fly around and get firsthand view. And so as I got older, though, you know, taking junior high school at that age, I started getting a little nervous and scared because, for one, you cannot talk about these kind of things, especially. I grew up in Middle Tennessee, and it's considered the Bible Belt. And these things at that point, I was born in 1960, so I'm 64 years old right now. And so as I was growing up, those things were considered either demonic or a mental health issue. So when I would mention it to my parents or close family, they would say, "Hush, you cannot talk about these things. People will make fun of you. They will pick on you. You cannot do this." And I figured out pretty quickly, growing up, that it just wasn't a topic that you could talk about really to anybody, even to family members. They only wanted to hear so much. They pretty much cut me down and said, "Let's don't talk about that." So, that's just how I grew up.
So you're saying you always remember having these experiences. So
Yeah,
what did you think it was when
I
you were
knew what it
young?
was. I knew
Okay.
what it was, but I will admit there were times where, they have the ability, they can pull an image from your mind. So if you're nervous and they want to have conscious contact with you, they can pull an image. For example, my mom maybe read me a story before bed. And so they know that that story is fresh in my mind, and they can read my mind, and they can read my emotional feelings and feel what I feel. So they might pull a character from the story. So if I was reading about little ducks, then they might walk around looking like a little duck. They don't change into the little duck, but what I see, I see that. And so as I got older, I realized that is not a duck. And there was different times where I thought that maybe a robot was coming, and it wasn't a robot at all. It was an extraterrestrial being. So I've seen how from 2 and 3 years old, 4, 5, 10, 11, 12, how our mind, not only plays tricks with us, and it's not the extraterrestrials doing it. They want us to be comfortable, and they, have used even a person, even as an adult. Sometimes, if I'm at somewhere, like if I in a hospital, I'm a patient, they'll come to see me to see if I'm okay, and they will present themselves to look like a person that's very well known, but it's not a person that would be there visiting me. So that is the clue. I know it's them. So it's just kind of, I just have always known. It's very strange, but I've always known. And there is a frequency exchange when they appear to me, and even before they manifest wherever I am. It doesn't matter where I am, Australia, United States, uh, wherever. I feel that they're coming. I get a frequency start changing in my body, and that's them letting me know to prepare myself so that I can start working with. When your frequency starts changing, your body kind of flips out, because it's like it's extreme fear and extreme euphoria, and it's like you have all these emotional feelings pouring up in your brain, and you're like trying to figure it out. So I have to remind myself, I know what this is. They're coming, and I've got to be ready. And so it's not something anybody can do overnight. Some people claim that they could, but it's not easy, because we don't feel frequencies when we're talking to other human beings or with animals. This is very, very different. And they're in a different dimension than us, and a very much higher frequency. So it's a big, big difference.
It's interesting that you've said you've seen them in disguise, because I was just listening to an interview with Lou Elizondo not too
Mhm.
long ago, who was saying, why couldn't they be among us in disguise? Animals just can even disguise and camouflage themselves. We do it. when we spy on other countries and stuff, if we don't want to stand out. So it's kind of weird that some people might not believe that they could already be here
Oh,
in
they're
a way.
here.
Yeah.
They're here. They're all around us. We just can't see it. They're not, we've always thought that they were from some planet that we know of, and we, SETI and everybody's been looking and sending out all these radio frequencies. But here's the kicker. They're not in our dimension. They are our technology, our physics, and none of that applies to a higher dimension. So we're wasting our time. They can look down and see us, but we can't see them. And they are not hiding from us. They are all around us. And they've proven this to me over and over again. They could be in the room with me right now. And they have moved things around and moved clock dials around to let me know that, there's life all around us. And because of us human beings only having 5 senses, and because human beings can only see so far visually, and we can only see colors and so far because of the 3D world that we're in. But there's life all around us, and they've showed me plants are living conscious beings, and they communicate. And they've showed me, open up visions and let me see, walk me in a forest and let me see how trees and plants, all these things communicate, animals communicate, and everything that we touch or whatever is a living conscious being. And so, and they're a lot closer to where we are. They're all around us. It's like a thin onion layer between us, and we're going through ascension right now. So we're getting closer and closer. And that's why we're starting to see them more, is because our visual ranges are increasing, because this is an evolutionary stage for humanity. This is a big deal.
And why are you one of the lucky ones that are being having them show themselves to you?
Well, I'm 64. When I was 30 years old, I witnessed my 2 sons having their first contact. I don't like to use the word abduction, because to me, it's, maybe when I was younger, I might have called it something of that nature, but I know better now, and I will not use that word, because I know now, after witnessing, seeing my sons, and I was very upset, very upset. And they put me in a wide awake paralysis. So I was raised up in the bed, and these were like 3 grays that were not the same grays that come from me. And basically, telepathically, they said, "This is not about you." And one walked towards me and pressed me down in the bed. And then the 3 proceeded to go over and got my 2 young boys out of the bed and marched them out right in front of me. And of course, at the time, I was very, very upset, scared, upset, everything under the sun that a mother would feel. So I was on a vacation, and I was at in the Florida Keys at a Marriott hotel on the Jimmy Buffett Beach. And, so I decided the next morning, I looked over, they were fine. So I decided that it would be best to not push them, if they didn't remember it, leave it alone. So that's what I did. But I did meditate and ask them to come and explain to me what this means. What is the purpose? And so what they did was they sent my normal 3 grays, which one is a female, and they're not gray, they're reddish brown, to come and get me. And they took me aboard a craft, and I met with the elders. And the elders are a interdimensional older beings. And I went before them, and they explained to me that I had made a choice prior to coming to Earth to be a part of this evolutionary process. And I was, didn't know what to think, to be honest with you. I was around 32, a mom, and I was like, I don't understand. So they gave me a blue orb, opened it up, and I saw myself as one of them. I was an interdimensional being, and I made a choice to come to Earth and be a part of this, because this is a big deal for humanity. This is a big stepping stone for us to, this is big. So basically, I incarnated here to be here at this particular time, to be a part of this, to help humanity evolve into higher dimensions and to help us with all the misinformation that we've been bestowed upon us for generations. So, and there's just a lot of things about our society that needs to change because if we stay in the negative 3D realm, we're going to destroy ourselves and end up in a horrible, horrible, terrible things. And I'm sitting here as a messenger, so to speak, to wake people up and help them to look within on their soul level, get to know who you are, and, you know, and tell the world it's not so much about the extraterrestrials, it's about humanity understanding who they are, finding out our true origins and our purposes here. We're more than just the human being. We have a soul that all of us chose to come to Earth, and we're here for a reason. And they want us to open up and recognize that and start working on changing the human experience here on Earth to be a better one.
And as far as evidence, have you tried to capture any of this on video or photo, or have they put any implants in you or anything like that where that you've been able to have extracted or anything like that that we hear sometimes happens to experiencers?
Well, I'm going to be quite frank with you. People that might have that, it was probably done by the government pretending to be extraterrestrials. Extraterrestrials, every human being has a frequency. Your frequency is your signature. That is who you are. So when I'm communicating telepathically with them, I'm not saying, "Hi, Nancy from Mississippi." I mean, my frequency is who I am. And that's how they locate me when I was in Australia or Hawaii or here in Mississippi or in Tennessee or Georgia or Alabama. They find me through my frequency. My frequency in my pineal gland in my brain, that is like an antenna. And as we ascend, and as they gave me three surges of Kundalini awakenings, that made my little antenna like go up into this basket of knowledge that surfaces all humans. And there's information and knowledge all out there. And they opened mine up so that I could help remember my soul, who I am as a soul, not the Nancy Thames the world created, but the real soul me. So no, I don't have that. They contact me through my frequency, and I use my frequency to contact them. You know, they know that it's me, and I meditate with intention. And you know, I put pressure, kind of a pressure thing on my brain to be able to communicate with them. And when they're very close to me, of course, I can feel it because the frequency in my body changes. But they have manifested their craft in front of me on the side of the road and stuff. But I did not take pictures of it because that was meant for me. That wasn't meant. They're not here to impress the world. You know, people that are going to ascend and believe these things are meant to, and they'll do it. And I don't have to prove myself to anyone. You know, I have my children who I've been in the room when they've been taken. They've been in the room and seen me taken. So, you know, I have enough family around me, and we all experience the same things. And one has had the Kundalini awakenings and has all the contact and things that I do. So I'm not here to prove anything to anybody. You know, if you want to accept it, fine. If you don't, that's fine too. You know, ascension is not for everybody. Not everybody's ready to accept the fact that humanity to continue on for billions, millions, billions of years, we've got to make a lot of changes. But there's a lot of people, it is not within their soul path, you know, so this is not for everybody. And so everybody needs to look within, ask their inner self to help them and to make these decisions. And, you know, they shouldn't believe necessarily anything I say or anyone's. I'm here to tell you to trust in yourself, look within, because we have abundance of information in our subconscious if we learn how to open up and get it to share information with us. And that's what they've taught me to do. And that's what I want to teach people to do, is to find their inner soul self.
And you mentioned the one type of being that visited you was what we would consider the grays, but they weren't the exactly a gray color. Could you tell us more about the type of entities that you're saying you've seen?
Yeah. There's over 60 different races of grays. I've seen many different races, and they're not like the stereotype that we see. They all have different colors, they have different heights, they have different facial features. Um, then I see aquatic beings, I see humanoids, I've seen the reptilians before, not so many of them, but I've seen them and met them. There's all kinds of races of beings that a lot of people don't even know about. And a lot of the ones that we see the pictures of on the internet and stuff are incorrect. And they do not go by the names that we have given them. And they do not have names. They don't go by a name. Their frequency is who they are. They're telepathic. So when they're talking, there's no reason to say who they are because you already know, because you identify that frequency as them.
So have you ever had any experience like we hear with some of these where there's some type of impregnation or some type of sampling done to you on any of these experiences?
No, not that kind of thing. Again, that's a lot of misinformation, but I'm not here to tell people that they don't understand what happened to them. I used to wonder about those things until, I've been doing this for 64 years. I've had time to learn and understand. It's not something that you automatically pick up on. It's unfortunate, but the world around us influences. And when we have missing time, our brain will try to fill it in with a narrative. So the fact is, they are at a higher frequency, and it's just as uncomfortable for them to come here and be around a human being as it is for us to be exposed to their frequency. So they black people out if they're like very fearful and frightened, and for several reasons, for safety for themselves, for safety to the human being. They don't want anybody to get hurt. And what people don't realize is that we all have souls, and we all made a choice to come to Earth. And a lot of people made soul contracts, agreements with these beings to be part of this evolutionary process. But when they come to Earth, all that memory is washed. We're brainwashed. And I happened, and they showed me, and I've learned, through them about who I was and, why I'm here. And, and that's part of why this ascension is important, is a lot of us will start to wake up and realize that, they're family to all of us. So no, I have not had any of those things. And, another thing that's wonderful about ascension, and here's what they tell me, because I get frustrated listening at some of the stuff people say, point blank. They tell me, let evolution run its course. It will do most of the job for me, because as we ascend, our awareness, our understanding, our knowledge will increase, and we will understand things better. So we will realize that if you look what we can do genetically right now as a human being in the 3D realm, and these beings are billions of years ahead of us in evolution and higher levels or higher dimensions. They don't use probes. They don't take eggs. They don't do the things like the very primitive ways like we think. They're way above that. And I've seen their technology, and they've done medical work on me. So it's, their consciousness is their technology. You and I are sitting here talking on laptops. And if I want to go outside and I want to use my technology, I have to carry it with me. For them, their consciousness is their technology. It is not a separate entity. So people will learn that most of these stories was just part of the process of us learning about higher dimensions and the differences of frequencies and the differences of billions of years of evolution. Being human beings, we want to always think that we understand, and we form our own narratives, but we're going to have to be corrected in a lot of things because, Now the government's even telling people they're all interdimensional because, I mean, they pop in, they pop out. They're not in our dimension at all. So there's a lot of new information, and people are going to be learning more and more as we ascend. And that's the beautiful part about this. It will make it a lot easier. You know, people are not going to run around crazy and frightful like what happened with the Orson Welles story back in the what 40s or whenever that was. People are Evolution is going to take care of a lot of this stuff for us.
I heard you mention in another interview this stuff caused some problems with one of your marriages. How did that cause issues? Was it the experiences themselves or
Yeah, you know, it's just really tough. This is not a piece of cake like everybody thinks. I mean, you know, not all of your family understands. You know, they don't want to talk about it. You know, it's like they think you're cuckoo, or basically they just don't want. There's something. Some people just don't want to know about these things. You know, it's just you can lead a horse to water, but you can't make him drink it, sort of thing. You know, that's why we have to be careful. If you find that if you're talking about this and you get the feeling that the person just really is shutting down and doesn't want, walk away. You planted the seed there, you know. So yeah, it basically, yeah, that had a lot to do with it. And, you know, and it was hard for me as a human being, you know, trying to have my daytime life and my nighttime life, trying to balance this all out. And it took me a while. You know, there got points where I would stay up all night and then try to sleep during the day because I thought that, you know, if I stayed up all night, they can't come. So I've experienced a lot more than what people realize. And I'm trying to let people know that more because it is not all hunky dory. It is not all peachy. It's like, here comes the tinfoil hat lady, you know, or so, you know, that was one of the things that they did teach me is that it's just as important to have our human life as it is to have my extraterrestrial life. You know, I'm here having a human experience, and this is something that my soul chose to do. So, you know, I've got to experience both, balance them both out, and both are just as important.
so what are they how are they talking to you? Is it through telepathic
Yes.
communications?
Yes.
You just
Telepathic.
it, what they're saying just comes into your head?
Yes, it does. But as I ascend more, there's like, I don't know how to explain it to you. It's like an invisible antenna, and there's a frequency, and there's just like all this information. And I guess this is what people, I guess that's what they call themselves, channelers, or what that, you know. But we can all learn to do these things. You know, I don't label myself as anything because extraterrestrials don't label themselves as anything. You know, I am who I am, and I'm not here to impress, and I'm not trying to sell anything. You know, I can do what I can do, but, you know, I'm not trying to put on a rodeo show or anything like that. You know, I want to help other people to learn how to do the same thing.
And what is it that you talk about with the Nordics? Because I noticed that's on your website.
Well, when I first made that website, Time for Disclosure, at that point, what was that, 5, 6 years ago, something like that? You know, to me, disclosure at that point meant our government coming out and telling us everything. And I still think that would be great. But I have been gifted Kundalini awakenings by the non human intelligence interdimensionals, and I've learned a great deal. This is not something that, you know, every day I'm learning more and more and more. So I realize now that just because we call them Nordics and we have put names and labels, that's not what they go by. So the humanoids that I've met are probably what some of these people have talked about in the past, but in reality, they do not call themselves that. And they're not from anywhere in our dimension at all. You know, so you have to understand a lot of people were selling books. They were selling themselves. You know, they were, I hate to say it, but they were, you know, on deadlines for books and things like that, and getting funding. A lot of people were getting funding from bigger markets. There is a market out there in this business, and I've seen it, but that's not what I'm interested in. I'm here because this is who I am. This is my mission. This is my sole purpose. My reason for coming to Earth was for this point, and that's why my sons are here, and they are here helping me to do what I'm doing. It's very important to my whole family.
I noticed one guy that sells a lot of books, but they're classified as fiction, is Charles Hall, who talks about the tall whites. And you mentioned the tall whites on your website too, in relation to
Mhm.
Linda Moulton Howe. What do you know about the alleged tall white aliens?
I've talked to her about all this, but you know, she tends to want to believe what these government workers tell her and stuff. But I know now, what I know is that there is no names. They are not interacting with our government whatsoever. And again, it's just like everybody, these whistleblowers, they all end up coming out with these stories, and they all end up writing books and doing all these things. I just think that is I think there's a government narrative, and they instrument some people and put them out on the forefront because they will go along with what the government's narrative or what they want people to know. And I'm not that kind of person. I'm going to tell the truth, and I don't have anything fanciful or mystical or anything. I'm not, I don't have any great gifts. I'm a human being. I am a lifelong contactee, and I have face-to-face physical contact with these beings. And when I'm not, they're in my dreams every night, and they're in my head constantly. We communicate back and forth. But I haven't written a book. I'm not here to make money off of this stuff. I'm not here to become famous. Whatever happens with me is what is in the cards and what is set out by the non-human intelligence. They open a lot of the opportunities for me, and I leave it in their hands. But I do my part by reaching out to podcasters to do podcasts, but that's about the extent.
And what do you know about these alleged reptilian beings?
I've met them. They are not what people think. They are living conscious beings, and none of these beings eat humans. They are not even they eat nutrients. And they do not eat like we eat. We eat 3 meals a day. They only eat when their body needs it. They do not sleep as much as we do. Like, for example, the grays and reptilians, they'll make a paste of nutrients and they'll rub it into their skin, and it will absorb in, and then it's excreted out that way. And then, like the humanoids, it's kind of like the equivalent to us taking a vitamin. To them, it's like a supplement. It's not like we do at all. And they don't require the sleep that we do because they don't have all the toxins in their air and their food and the water that we do have here on Earth. And as far as the cattle mutilations and all that kind of stuff, they have no need for anything like that. I mean, they have no need for anything. They were around before we human beings were ever put on this planet, and they played a part in it. They do not claim to be the creators of us. They believe in a creator source, and they all have souls. And they say we played a part. And, so everything that they have everything in their data bank of knowledge. They don't need anything from us at all. Even the stories about the Anunnaki and the gold and all that, those are beautiful, beautiful stories, make a great movie. But a lot of that is not true either. They were real, I think. There's enough evidence of that. But gold is not even from Earth. Gold comes from space, from asteroids and things like that land here. That's how we get our gold. They could have gotten gold anywhere. The reason why it might have been easier to mine here on Earth, is I don't know exactly why, but I'm just saying we're going to learn a lot of stuff that is going to change a lot of these things that we've been told. It's going to be a big eye opener.
They're seeing a lot around gold mines. Apparently, there's a lot of mass sightings around gold mines. I heard.
I think they like the water. I think that that's where we really need to be exploring more. I've been I've been in craft that goes in the water. NSOs is what the government calls them. So water is a very high vibrational frequency. And I think that, there's parts of our ocean that we have not explored. And I know for a fact that they have bases and things down there. And I think that, rather than using these radio wave communications and stuff like SETI uses, that we need to be looking at different other things like, water frequencies. There's different ways that we could be communicating with them. They just haven't explored it yet. And I've been writing a lot of articles on things like this in the hopes that the right person will see it and kind of go, ding, ding. We never thought of that. Yeah.
So, as far as the water goes, you say you were taken in a craft that
Yes.
went underwater. What did you do under there?
Well, there's different things that we do. Sometimes it depends on what group of extraterrestrials I'm with. I was with aquatic beings and grays and humanoids, and we went on a craft, and they were looking for what I didn't know the word at the time, but we called them cryptids. But they were looking for underwater beings that were either their safety was in jeopardy from humans, or either they were too close to humans and they felt like they needed to intervene. They were sort of like a group of extraterrestrials that were dimensional keepers. So they would get them and move them, or, let them know that they need to relocate, that, they're getting too close to the human society, so that was interesting. So that's how, the first time I had ever met aquatic beings. And that was wise because he had to go down and like whatever they do. I was only an observer. I didn't go down and do all that. I don't claim to be, I only observe. Don't participate in any of that.
So, why do you think that they would have brought you in that craft down there? Just for the ride?
Well, this has been all my life, ever since I was a little girl. And before I was born, I made a decision to come here. And I've seen that vision, and I saw myself walking, and I saw the essence of myself go into my mother, and I watched myself actually being born. So I am one of them. They are family to me. So for me to be able to have this conversation with you, they wanted me to experience these things. And I'm a type person that, for me to feel comfortable in what I'm saying and be knowledgeable, I have to do these things hands on. Yeah.
So you're saying that they were going down there to warn the crypto terrestrials about something. So does that mean all the various races of crypto terrestrials, interdimensional,
Like
and maybe
Bigfoot.
so they're all in communication with each other?
Yes, they're all dimensional. Yes. And, they try to keep them separated, but they do like to come down. Even like you mentioned earlier, I have seen humanoids walking around in a Walmart or walking around in a grocery store, and just, they're kind of like, I don't know the word I want to use, kind of like precursors. They're kind of like fillers. They'll send a group down to go down and mingle in malls, mingle in around human beings. And they can read people's minds. They can pick up on what the frequency is. And also, they'll come across people like me that automatically pick up on their frequency. So, it's kind of like they're just checking it out, seeing where humanity stands. How close we getting, how fast are we ascending, that kind of thing. So, and I have experienced that in grocery stores and places like that.
And what do you know about orbs? What can you tell us about orbs?
Well, the orbs that they use with me usually they present to me and they open it up and I see myself, and they've told me to always choose blue, the blue, so maybe that's uh, part of my higher self. So I think that these orbs are beings, and they can change forms. They can do a lot of things. They put me in an orb or a Merkaba. I really, they don't use those words. I'm just trying to think of something that would help you to understand what I'm talking about, because they wanted me to experience seeing, I ask things every night. I meditate and pray or whatever, meditate, communicate, tell them what I want. And they come and show me these things a lot of times in my dream state. So I wanted to know, what will Earth look like, when we get closer to ascension. And what they put me in, like an orb, and I could see out of it. I doubt anybody could see through it, but I could see out of it. And I was totally safe, and I was in a storm, and I was not getting wet or anything. And I was traveling along through bad weather. And then at the end of the bad weather, I could see how beautiful Earth is. And there was designs that I'd never seen before, colors, new colors I'd never seen before. And everything was beautiful. It was just gorgeous. So, they can do so many things. We're just barely understanding the capabilities that they have. That's what's hard for humans. We've always thought we were the top dog, but we're not when it comes to this. And, and a lot of times I think that instead of always looking to the sky, but of course they're going to come to the sky because that's where we're looking. And that would be a good place for them to show themselves, because we would not even see it if they were traveling around the ground or something. But they're all in our water. So I think we need to, explore our waters more. We'll probably learn more about, there's probably, well, I know there's bases and types of civilizations under there. So I just think we need to explore that. Maybe they already know that and they're scared. I don't know.
What about smell? Do any of them have any scent to them? Because I've heard some people say that they smell kind of like leaves off of
No, they do
trees.
not. No.
You haven't noticed any type of scent.
No, and I've been on craft and there's no smells, and everything. What's really strange is that when I was little, they would take me through the ceiling or through the roof, and I'd be holding the female Gray's hand. And as we were headed there, it would look like the craft would be about half the size of American football field. But as we step into the craft, and as we get closer, it gets bigger and bigger. But really, it's when you step on the inside, and it's just like it's like walking into a whole new dimension. And they can form a bubble around you, and you can literally like move into a higher dimension and stay there for a while. And I've experienced that, and it's the coming back part for me is really, it's very tiring, and it messes up my stomach really bad. It's like you've been on a unbelievable roller coaster ride. It's a big deal, this frequency changes. And that's another thing, is like, if they were to come here right now and park over our oceans, which I think would be a good place, because they wouldn't seem so as a threat to the people that are not ready for this. They can never come hover over a city. People would think it would be like Independence Day, the movie. So over water, a great body of water, that way they're, away from homes and things like that. But yeah, they take a lot of things in consideration that we don't even think of. So, but they could not, if they were to come here and do that, they could not step out here for a long period of time, and they would probably never even come out of their craft, because we are in a 3D negative realm. They come from higher dimension, and they're not used to all this negativity and this density of Earth. So it's uncomfortable. So that's why they black people out, is because it's so uncomfortable to them. And that's why people have missing time, is because they just can't deal with that.
You mentioned the one that took your hand was a
Mhm.
female. How do you know which ones are female and which ones are males?
Their frequency, and it's that's who they are, and I can feel it and sense it. And I know when she's telepathic with me. Now, she is a hybrid, as a matter of fact, but she's a hybrid of the tall grays, and she was designed by the interdimensionals in the tall grays. And the reason they designed her is to do the legwork, to come back and forth to get contactees. They designed her so that she tweaked her DNA so that she could stand the density for a longer period of time, because it's that uncomfortable. So, but when she speaks to me telepathically, I hear her and I know she's female by her frequency, and I have great bond and love for her. And she's been with me in my prior life, soul life, as one of them. She was with me, and she's like a guardian or assistant, whatever. I don't know what the right word to use, but when she's speaking to me, I cannot sense inflection. I cannot sense male or female. But when I get on craft, and she and that group totally disappears, then when I communicate with the tall grays or grays and humanoids and those type beings, I can sense inflection, and I can sense whether they're male or female when they're talking. So she's a hybrid, and a lot of people think that they're robots. They're biological, but if they're enhanced so much that they're, by our standards, they're not like any robots that we have. They're, because they're biological, but they're also designed by the tall gray. So in a sense, they are kind of like AI, but not exactly, not the primitive styles that we have. They have feelings and emotion, like she loves me and I love her. They're very, and like I can touch her skin and feel the temperature. They're
Do
very,
they wear
very cool.
clothes? What do they
No,
wear for clothes? No, they're
no.
naked.
Sometimes they wear a very thin suit, but it will be the same color as their skin, and it's very hard to detect. So some do, though. The ones that I saw that came to get my little boys, they were 3 foot tall, and they were gray, and they wore long robes, and they had very high collars. So different races, depending on what their job is. And grays are very, very task oriented. There's no negotiating. They do have some humor and stuff, but yeah, they're very task oriented too. They're, all of them have a certain task when they come to Earth. They're here for a purpose. It's not just to come down here and play games and do the things that people think they do. They're here for a reason. And usually it's, they like to come see people, or they come see people that either in direct lineage, which would be me, because I am incarnated from them. So that, and there's more than me. There's a lot of people incarnated from the interdimensional realm. And then there's people that simply made agreements to be part of this process, and they wanted to be here on Earth for this. And at some point they'll probably wake up and remember it.
So do you think the ones that don't wear clothes are more the robotic ones, or do the males just not have like visible sex organs hanging around? Because that seems to me
they
like that might be
they
a bit
don't
out there.
reproduce like we do. You know, they no, they don't have the sex organs like we do, the hanger downers or anything like that. But they do reproduce, but it's more in a consciousness way, and they also can, it's like they can do it. For example, they live very, very long lives. And when their vessel, like what I'm in, what you're in, this is a vessel. So the way that they've taught me is that when I leave this vessel, my soul goes back to source. And then I transfer into a new vessel. So rather than doing the dying process like we do here on Earth, there is no dying. They know ahead of time that they need a new vessel, so they will create it and have it ready, and they just do what's called a soul transfer. There is no death. And we'll learn to do that. They've showed me that. Humans will learn. We will learn that. We will understand that our souls are immortal, and this is just a temporary experience. And more children will be born that remember their past lives and things like that. So it's going to become in the future. It's going to become more well known that we have immortal souls, and we will learn to appreciate this very short experience here on earth. It will change the whole thing, and we'll learn to enjoy ourselves and be more family oriented and more take better care of ourselves and not be so focused on materialistic things and working 9 to 5. We'll learn to utilize AI to do a lot of things for us that gives us more free time. They've shown me visions of all this. It's amazing.
Now, you said you've talked to Linda Moulton Howe, who has researched mutilations and does believe a lot of them are definitely from extraterrestrials. You're saying they're not. What do you think that they're caused by?
We have to understand that there's a lot of this stuff has been hid for 70, 80 years. And there's a lot of people, even in our government, that do not want disclosure. And they will do anything to put fear, to keep fear and keep control over humans. That keeps us from ascending, leaving the 3D negative realm. When we leave the 3D negative realm, we will learn to survive without wars. We'll learn to play in the sandbox and have differences, but deal with it in a manner that no warlike ways. And we'll learn to respect one another and still understand that we have differences. So I think it's just, it is just trying to put fear in humanity because it keeps us dumbed down and prevents us from ascension and becoming the human beings that we were meant to be. And there's a lot of people that control our world. They don't want us to get off fossil fuels because they make so much money off of gasoline and cars. There's people that own pharmaceutical companies that they don't want to find or give us cures for things because they make money off of us being unhealthy. They cannot make money off of intelligent, healthy human beings. So it's a form of population control. We have been manipulated like little puppets for eons. And, people are starting to realize, we have toxins and everything, that's just all we know. That's for the minute we're born, we've been led and programmed into these things, but we are going to change and we're going to learn a lot of things are going to surface and we will change. We will learn to become better versions. We will never be perfect, but we'll learn to be better versions and we'll learn to become a part of the dimensional neighborhood and learn more things. It's just part of our evolution. Because if we don't, we're going to destroy ourselves and end up in World War III. Yeah.
And you also believe that Bigfoot is a type of alien, right?
He is a interdimensional being, and that's why, they can disappear. You can see them and then all of a sudden they're gone. And a lot of times you'll see craft, extraterrestrial craft around them because they are monitoring the human and Bigfoot interaction. I've seen Bigfoot before. So I understand they're real and I understand that, people have seen them. So, and I also understand that, these dimensional extraterrestrials, that's their job, is that they watch out and protect them and protect humans. They're trying to not let that boundary become a problem.
Where did you see Bigfoot?
On the Elk River canoeing in Winchester, Tennessee, with my sister and my dad. I was in the front, my dad was in the back, and all of a sudden we smelled what was like a horrific wet dog. And we could hear all this splashing and noise. And my dad apparently knew exactly what it was because he said, be quiet, take your paddles, put in the boat, canoe, do not move. We're going to just float. And I want you to see this. And we were very quiet and we kept our paddles out, of the water because we didn't want to seem aggressive. And we came right up on it. And it was, when it saw us, it just, wanted to get away quick, because we interrupted its bath time in the river.
How tall would you say it would have been?
Ooh, we were in the probably 9 foot, 8, 9. I don't know. It's hard to say. I was in a canoe and I was like 16 years old.
And as far as their views on animals, do they eat animals? Do they keep animals as
No,
pets?
they're vegetarian. But I've not seen, they don't have pets in the craft, but I have seen some of their cities and they do have pets. And I've done drawings on my website. There's some, I think, but yeah, I've seen some drawings of things. But yeah, I think some of our I think that some of our mammals, and like the octopus, the squids, dolphins, I think that they're all very high frequency beings, and they were seated here as well, and we were seated here as well.
So, what do you think they think about how we treat animals as far as some of these factory farming type things? If they're all vegetarian, they
Well,
mention anything?
they took my son and I. They didn't take us there. My son and I. They told us in downloads to go to um, San Jose del Pacifico in Oaxaca, Mexico, which is the very south of Mexico on the borderline on the Pacific. They wanted us to go there and go up on this mountain to meet an indigenous tribe called the Zapotecs. And so we went, my oldest son and I, and I was there for 7 days. We were without electricity pretty much the whole time. And so one night they came for me and they took me out I was in a cabin. They took me out. And when we walked out and the forest was all around us, they took their hands like this and they said, everything is alive. And I looked and when they did this, it opened up like in a different dimension or a vision, however you want to phrase that. And I could see plants are alive, communicating. I could see trees communicating. I could see the animals and things. Everything is alive. Water is alive. All these things are alive. So they have a great appreciation of our planet Earth. Our Earth is a living, conscious being. And the Zapotec people there are very in tune with plant life and very in tune with Earth. And they understand that it's a living, conscious being. And so, I was around them and watching them. And my son spent days with them out in the woods foraging for different things. And they would never take more than part of a tree. They wouldn't destroy a whole tree. They'd only take what they needed, or plant or vegetables. They would only take what they needed, and they would allow the plant or vegetation, whatever, to continue out its normal organic life cycle without destroying it all. And, animals and things, they never abused, and they would thank Earth and thank the animal for giving them, and they were explaining to me that everything is connected. We are all one and we're all connected. And when we were created and put here on Earth, everything that we ever needed, whether it was medicinal, whatever purpose, food, water, medicinal, whatever we ever needed was placed here on Earth. And so there is no need for us to have diseases. There's no reason why we should be using all these fossil fuels, because all these things were put here so that we didn't have to abuse our planet. So they taught me so many things. And, to me, everything is alive. I look at bugs in a different way. I look at water in a different way. And, and I'm thankful that we have all these things. It sounds hokey to a lot of people, but when you see it in action, it will change you. It will absolutely change you. You know, in our planet Earth, I think we're seeing that she's been very disruptive this past year and probably will this year. You know, she is ascending and she's purging out all that negativity and all the harmful things that we've done to our planet. So, you know, if that's not indication enough to a lot of people that things need to change on our planet, I don't know what will. You know, but yeah, everything is alive and we're all connected, and we're connected to the whatever we do here on Earth affects the universe, affects everything and dimensions around us, because we're all connected. We just don't understand our connections, and we lost the connections that we used to have. You know, older cultures always had a connection with nature and earth, just like Indians and all these older tribes. We've just lost it because of the Western world and the materialistic ways. But we're going to start figuring all these things out.
Well, thanks a lot for sharing with us your perspectives on things. I appreciate it. And I'll let
Thank
you
you.
close this off with whatever you want to tell the fans.
Well, I just want you all to look within. You know, you're going to be exposed to a lot of new things, you know, and there's going to be a lot of questions in your mind. Trust in yourself. You don't have to believe me or anyone else. Your subconscious knows, and it made a decision to come to Earth, and we're all here for a reason. We are the disclosure, not the government. We are the disclosure. So start working within.